what does autistic identity mean to me? It means a lot to me in a lot of different aspects. Like, I couldn't condense them all into one answer, but I could definitely give it a shot if I tried. Yeah, autistic identity means a lot to me in like, for one instance, a similar way to my queer identity, in the sense that I only learned about it once, like I learned and explored more about it once I left school. Because before then, I only just knew of it. I knew I was autistic, but I didn't know that I was autistic. Like, I didn't know my autism as a thing. I just knew the word autism, really. I didn't know much else about it. So then once I left school, and actually it was when I interacted with more autistic people and a lot more friends who were autistic, but then also like learning about autism through my friends, but then learning through the media, like actually autistic media as well. That's when it became a big part of me, because it explained so much, like between childhood, primary school, high school, all of that jazz. It explains so much as to how I can like communicated, socialized, reacted, behaved, all of that sort of stuff. And then I would see all sorts of information and I'm like, oh my God, if I knew that when I was in high school, I wouldn't have had such a bad time. Like, I would have understood what was going on in like a certain instance, whatever that might have been. So that's why I embrace it so much now, because I wasn't able to embrace it like when I was younger, like before I was an adult. And my autistic identity also means a lot to me in the sense of the world as well. Not just how I perceive the world, which is a common one, but definitely how the world perceives autism. It's like because a common thing that I hear is that I don't look autistic. And like, I hear a lot of comments between not looking autistic, people not believing I'm autistic for whatever certain reason. And and it's good when people do question that, because it's funny to, yeah, hang on a second. And since society has unconsciously learnt that external appearances are the way that we interact with people, it's like it's most commonly like we judge people and we assume people based on the external appearances before we get to know someone, before we get to know like themselves. We tend to assume a lot, and it really annoys me, because like in the sense of like assumptions of like gender, assumptions of pronouns, assumptions of even like race or or gender, or even like what their home, like what a person's home is like, or what a person's job is like. We assume so much of that unconsciously, and we've just learned that that's, I don't know, it seems to be that we've just learned that that's okay, when in reality we don't know that person. We don't know what that person's going through, what their life is like. But then we judge, we learn, we react, we behave with them based on what their external appearance. When it comes down to like behavior or even respect, we do that based on external appearances of someone else. And that to me just seems gross. And my autistic identity, I think, has something to do with that, because growing up, like between learning about humans, am I right? Like learning about humans, human interaction, growing up, I was always like, why is everybody so mean to each other? Why is everybody so judgmental to one another? And even though I have a little bit more of an understanding of it now, I definitely still don't understand why when like, even though I'm not the good guy here, I still definitely judge people unconsciously. But then there's people that take it to a whole other level, but that's a whole other conversation. That's the way I view my autistic identity, is both how I perceive the world, but also how the world perceives autism. Like, I like to show, like, both me and a lot of other good autistic representation out there, to show how diverse autism is and how different that it truly is. That even though it's one word, like autism, the one word, it's so many different meanings to certain people, so many different connotations, and that it expresses itself so differently in a lot of people. That's what autistic identity means to me, because that's another thing that autistic identity means to me.